Thank you, Russ, for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and I'm hoping this is at least somewhat germane to the rest of the meeting. Our company is focused on data acquisition. That's it. We don't do any reduction of any kind. Really, strictly data acquisition and making that easy and powerful. So with that said, I guess I don't have too many hands here. Let's see. Is that it?
Oh, no, wait.
Oh, this one?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
No,
so
I gotta
there's
put the thing in.
Oh,
I gotta make the magic
the
happen.
dongle's not? Okay.
the other way is up. Yeah,
This
that's
is up. That's where I started.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And is the top thing a laser?
It's a laser
pointer?
somewhere there.
Somewhere? Oh, there we
There
go.
you go.
Now I think I'm all set. Great. Okay, so when we started in 1999, 2000 timeframe, people were basically doing everything manually, and I paid a visit to Kitt Peak. Long story short, I got inspired by Jim Scotty there and came back and decided to start in as kind of another career to automate telescopes. I didn't know anything really. I hadn't studied literature or anything, so off I went. At that point in time, we had operators and allocation committees. Why is this taking so long to change slides? Okay. And around that time, we had Orchestrate, which was in the old Sky 5, and somebody at SBIG did CCD Commander, and that was pretty much it. Those are procedural applications where you tell it slew here, focus, take an image, slew there, check it, take an image. In other words, you're basically telling it step by step how to acquire the data. It's a form of scripting, but it's low level and very error prone. And I decided it needed to go another level above that to declarative. What I mean by that, you tell it what you want and when you want it, and let the system decide how to do it. So you give it a list of images, a set of coordinates, and a list of images, basically. There's a little more than that, but that's basically what we're talking about. Sorry, I saw the clock, it was just before 2 o'clock, and I was up at the restaurant. I had to go all the way up to my building 6, third floor room, and then come all the way down here, so I got a little bit overheated. So declarative, meaning you don't do procedures, you just give it a list of what you want, and including when you want it, either now or wait for a little while and do this, wait for that. So that's the way things were for quite a while. We had a nice business with that, but around and sold quite a few packages that way. Another piece of the pie, the puzzle, or however you want to look at, was building modular systems, which these all are. You have equipment and software from multiple vendors that are all working together. Anytime you have modular systems, you really do need interfaces. You really do need interfaces that are standard somehow, some way that these things can communicate sensibly. So that was another piece of the puzzle, was the ASCOM interface specs. And that was a big one. So, and I was pretty much heavily involved in that for the first 5 or 6 years. And then lastly, around 2004, I got involved with some VO event stuff and GRB follow-ups and things, and I started thinking about the problem of how to automate the whole thing and make it autonomous. And that's really, I started that in 2004, and by 2006 had our scheduling system. So that's been 11 years ago, believe it or not. And it has, of course, evolved and improved since then, but that's really where things went from back in '99 to the present day. What do I mean by dispatch scheduling? And some other people have called it, there was another name that was given to that today that I thought was kind of clever. But anyway, by dispatch scheduling, I mean you don't plan out the whole night. Every time you want to do something, you look at everything that's out there in the database. And that stuff can go out months and months ahead. You look at everything and you decide, what can I do? What can I do right now? And what defines that are the constraints. So it's the observing conditions that you want for this. Air mass, moon distance, things like that, sky transparency, whatever. You have constraints. So based on the constraints of the 50,000 things that are in the database, what could I do right now, at this minute? And then you look at that and you make a semi-intelligent decision, what should I do? And then go off and do that. An hour, half an hour, 15 minutes, maybe only 5 minutes later, that finishes, and you come back and you look at the whole thing again. So that's the dispatching is you look at it all, then you defer or veto. That's the selecting the subset that you can do, select the best, and then observe. And it just goes around and around like that. So what that means is as conditions change, perhaps the atmosphere is no longer photometric, or the moon rises, or a target of opportunity comes in and gets dropped in, it doesn't matter. It makes those same decisions each time. It seems suboptimal maybe, but it really works well in real life. And then there's the macro part of that, which is an entire night's worth of operation. In that case, it will start the observatory up for you. Then it may, at your option, do some calibration frames of some kind. And then it goes into the cycle I showed you previously and observes. Now, if the weather gets bad, unsafe, it may have to stop and put everything on standby. I'm sure some of you people think this is really low level or obvious, but this is why I'm here to explain the basic blood and guts of dispatch scheduling, so here I am. Then, when the weather gets good enough, again, to be safe for the instruments, it'll open back up and back it goes to checking what can I do, what should I do, what can I do, what should I do. The nice part about it, if you think about where all this started was thinking about the problem of, we got the weather went unsafe. Why can't you just pick up where you left off when the weather gets safe again? Well, it's because all the targets you were working on are now how many hours times 15 degrees further west, right? So it's not the right thing to do. You're going to get your data not under the conditions you expected. So you can't do that. You have to do something like this if you want to respond to changing conditions. It's the only way to do it. So it does that, and then maybe it does some cal frames, flats. If you have to take twilight flats, I'm sorry, but it'll do that. But it's much better to have a panel. Darks and biases, and then it shuts down. And shut down is your own meaning. A lot of people, particularly professionals, leave their equipment running all the time. So shutdown it's different for different observatories. So where has all this led? I'm just going to show you a few of many instances of things that we've been involved with over the years. The first would be, well, I forgot, there was one thing here. I sliced and diced this presentation based on the time here. So the other thing we added was the web remote, and it's all form fill out. There's no scripting needed. You can write declarative plans, upload them and run them. So, or you can put real complex requests into the database if you're running the scheduler through the web also. But for routine observing, it's simple fill-in forms. Name, coordinates, number of images, filter, binning, and exposure time. Number of images, filter, binning, exposure time. And you just keep filling that out. When you're done, you push a button, everything's done for you. So, and this will work on iPads, even mobile phones if you have a couple pairs of glasses or a magnifying glass, or you can pinch it open. But it will fit. So some of the stuff we've been involved, and that's a big, I should mention also that in a student environment, this keeps the students away from the keyboard in the observatory computer, which is a huge security risk. Remote login for students doesn't work. And in fact, even partners where you have multiple people sharing an observatory, if you let them in to go adjust, I need to adjust the guider because it's doing such and such, and then the next person gets on, and he gets onto an observatory that he has no idea what he has. It's not acting right. Why not? Well, George was on last night, and I don't know what the hell he did, but it ain't working. And so, better not to give too many people the keys to the observatory and let everybody use this And they can get the results they need by just using this, and that being the key. And yes, okay, great. That went fast. All right. So we were involved in the APAS project. It was a huge one. It was all scheduled. 8 million stars and probably more now because data release 10 is coming out in a few weeks, and I just talked to Arnie, and I'm supposed to get info from him to replace this data release 8 info. But that's in UCAC 4, the photometry from that. But 4-band calibrations of 80 million stars, northern and southern hemisphere, all done by the scheduler, all done 24/7 hands-off, autonomous. The Great Basin Observatory, you'll probably hear more about that from Paul Gardner. That is running 24/7 autonomous, no human visitors. It's in the admin area of the park in central Nevada in a really dark site. And its usage is by the scheduler mostly. I know there's been a few people in there that have been poking buttons and watching the telescope move, but the intention is to have it be a data acquisition engine for 4 or 5 colleges, I think. 4, okay, so 4 colleges and others, eventually possibly the public. But that went in August. Paul Gardner was the key designer of that thing. That was fabulous.
Where'd it go?
I'm missing one. TRAPPIST is what I wanted.
Right.
Can you put that back up?
Sorry.
It jumped over it. One more. There we go. Everybody has heard of the NASA discovery of the 7 exoplanets. Well, why was the name of it, the system TRAPPIST? Because actually the first 5 were discovered by TRAPPIST, which is out of the University of Liège in Belgium. And, excuse me, another scheduler-driven system that gets hordes of data, and they found this thing. So TRAPPIST runs 24/7, and they just put a huge program into there, and that's where they get their data flow to go into their pipeline for the TRAPPIST transit, exoplanet transit discoveries. And the reason NASA made the announcement was that they went to NASA for follow-up on the Spitzer Space Telescope, and NASA discovered 2 more. So that's how it ended up being 7. But really the original 5 and the system was discovered at Liège, and they're also one of our customers. So I'm glad I cut this thing down to where it just flows into 15 minutes. I'm sorry, I can probably answer 1 question. Must be 1. Okay?
Where do you see this going in the future?
How many minutes do I have?
1.
The addition of additional instruments, as you know, is what we're working on right now. Being able to automate spectrographs and your pet project, the Speckle system, and other, I'll call them exotic instruments for automation at least. There's some big technical challenges there, but I think we have the pieces necessary to do that, and that's what our focus is now.
Right.
So,
Please
okay.
join me in thanking.
Once again, thank you very much.